What is going on out there, peeps? All right, we're going to get back into Iraq. I was reading this long article. It's a little bit older, but I was kind of going over it and listening, or not listening, but reading about how the one of the fears I had, and this was a while ago anyways, about the globalists coming in and the Rothschilds in this. Anyways, the article went on to talk about how the Rothschild and the central banks had came in and just raped Iraq of a lot of different resources. So I'm not done finishing it, but I think I'll just kind of do a video later on and show you guys. It's an older article, but again, it gets right to the point of why I don't want the World Bank or the IMF involved in anything that Iraq is doing. You really don't want them to do so. So there's been a lot of chatter still going on about the exchange rate, which is very, very interesting, and we're going to cover that. So just a reminder, everybody, that if you are thinking about buying precious metals, give a consideration to our friends over at Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. If you're a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and get a free half ounce of silver. People keep asking me about my address, where they can send stuff and, write or whatever, which I felt funny about. But there you go. It's Pimpy's Network. Attention, Pimpy. There's the address right there. Feel free to just write me over there. You guys know I got this other webpage over there. There are so many good things that I've been posting on there. Things that a lot of you should be paying attention to because it does affect your everyday life. Things that I cannot talk about here on the YouTube, especially some special stuff about the Rona. I encourage you guys to go check out. All right? Let's get into this because, again, there's talk again about the exchange rate. But first and foremost, the dollar is falling against the dinar with the closure of Baghdad's markets. So, again, the dinar is still going. It's slow. Mind you, it's slow. They're tiny increments, but at least it's going in the right direction. The dollar exchange rate decreased slightly against the dinar on Saturday with the closure of a main stock exchange in Baghdad. The news correspondent said that Central Stock Exchange closed in Baghdad at 1,485 dinars for every $1. So remember, when they reset the dinar rate, it was at 1,450. So they're getting closer and closer. Not too far away. So anyways, down here you can see that the purchase is at 1,480. So they're at least going in the right direction. The central bank is doing its job, stabilizing the dinar, which is a good thing. Always, we want it to go in this direction to keep going. We'd like it to go much faster at a much bigger increments. But again, at least it's still going in the right direction. The central bank announces that the content of the discussion with Erbil, and again, that's just the two of them going back and forth, dealing with the banking sector, making sure that all the kinks are ironed out for the most part. There's not really a whole lot in here to really discuss. There was part of it I wanted to mention. The Prime Minister reiterated his readiness to cooperate and coordinate with the Central Bank of Iraq. So this is just to make sure that the Kurdistan and Baghdad are on the same page so they can do banking together. Now, this is a very long and interesting article. I'm going to get back to it because this is Economist suggests a second term for Al-Qademi. I would love for that to happen, but you can see even in this article, they identify some hurdles that he's running into right now. You see how long that sucker is? We already know about this. The United States is withdrawing 8 Patriot batteries from Iraq, Kuwait, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. We know about this. So here we go again. More rate talk, but either there's a mistranslation or something very interesting in this article that I'll bring to your attention. It says, after exceeding the 150,000 dinars, Al-Qademi's advisor, there is no change in the dollar exchange rate. So Mohammed Saleh, the economic advisor to the Prime Minister, ruled out on Saturday changing the exchange rate of the dollar against the Iraqi dinar in the coming period while confirming the ability of the central bank to control the exchange rate, which is necessary. We know this. This is a good thing. It's part of what we need to happen. The central bank intervenes more broadly and with short-term plans to break bottlenecking cash transactions and financial transfers to control the rise of the dollar against the Iraqi dinar. The central bank is able to impose its control on change in the exchange rate, noting that the recent rise in the exchange rate came after citizens refrained from buying the currency at the beginning of this year. The exchange rate is fixed at 1,450 dinar for every $1, and there is no price change in the coming period. But see, it's funny because they said this rate's going to be it for 3 years. Okay, then why do you keep talking about in the coming period? I thought you guys said, okay, there shouldn't even be no talk to the end of this year, but now you're talking about the coming period. World of differences here. I think that's very interesting that they keep changing what appears to be a possible time for a rate change. Again, they're not saying in what direction, but even so. It went from, we're going to have the same rate for 3 years. And then it said, well, we can't change it during this year because of the budget. Now it's not in this period. Huh. It should be noted that since the government reduced the value of the Iraqi Dinar against the US dollar, bringing the exchange rate of every $100 to 1,400, so every dollar for every 1,450 dinars, and this price was fixed in the federal budget for the year 2021. And since then, until now, the dollar exchange rate has not been stable, where it lasted for about 3 months without the official, 3 months without the official exchange rate to rise in recent months and reach up to basically 1,510 dinars for every $1. But it's stable now. That's a good thing. We're going in the right directions, okay? Let's get back to this article. It is a little long. I'll try to sum it up. So they're making the suggestion that Al-Kadhimi should be in there for another term. This is the magazine The Economist, and I believe this one is from Britain. All right? We know that ever since Al-Kadhimi's been in there, he's done everything he can to clear out as much corruption as possible. He's updated a lot of the systems so that making corruption a little bit harder than before. He's having to deal with a lot of different militia groups in there, especially the Popular Mobilization. Now, the thing with the Popular Mobilization is you got 1/3 loyal to a Ayatollah in Iraq, 1/3 loyal to the supreme leader in Iran, and another third of them loyal to Sadr in Iraq. So these people can be a thorn and be very dangerous, in my opinion, based on what the news is telling us, to Al-Kadhimi. We know that their leader, the general, that was arrested, but I see what happened is his armed militia members quickly took over a lot of the green zones that surrounded the houses, including Al-Kadhimi's. Although nothing happened, the fact that they could do it with such ease, where the hell is the protection for Al-Kadhimi? But in here it does go to say that, look, even though you have these different militia members, nobody's ever armed up against Al-Kadhimi. As a matter of fact, they've been following his orders. Is why the magazine is saying maybe we should put him in for a next term. But I think he's done. I think the writing's on the wall. So I'm hoping he does another term. He's helped bring a lot of stability there. But anyways, it goes on to say, they're talking to a couple of teenagers, young men, I should say, in a coffee shop. And then they did some interviews with him. And as they're interviewing one of the guys, they couldn't help but notice on the wall, and we're talking about one of the members of the militia group, on the wall, they said they had a picture or poster of General Qasem Soleimani. Remember the Iranian general who was killed by the Trump administration? But even that guy said, yeah, even after that, we still follow directions of Al-Kadhimi. The point being, they seem to be in check as long as Al-Kadhimi is there. But yeah, this guy might be stirring up a little bit at Qasem Soleimani, the general. He might be stirring up a little noise as we got new leaders wanting to take over. But I think now what's happening is it's one thing that they stayed in check as long as Trump was in office. But they seem to be showing a little bit more aggression with this new administration, who's very, very, very weak. So we'll see where it goes. I'm curious to see. I would like Al-Kadhimi to serve another term. I mean, he's done a wonderful job so far. I mean, I don't live in Iraq, but so far the people I've heard from, have some good things to say. One person has some negative things to say, but the rest of the people I talked to, it was mostly good. Anyway, it said the magazine considered in a report translated by the news that for many Iraqis, his release was a sad reminder of how vulnerable his conditions are, noting that after his arrest on charges of assassinating activists against corruption and the Iranian influence, his armed supporters immediately occupied part of the green zone. Instead of risking a bloody conflict, the state released him. So who are they saying is the person that is vulnerable? Because it ain't the general. Obviously, they move quickly. His militia members. The magazine referred to the next October elections, noting that 13 major entities are vying for power, 7 of them who are Shiites, 4 Sunnis, and 2 Kurds. And that 2 broad alliances of Shiite and Kurds and Sunnis are likely to emerge from this mix. The mixture, one of them leaning towards Iran and the other towards the United States and the Gulf states. She stated, adding that at the same time, Al-Kadhimi, the prime minister, would take over in his second term if he showed them that he was flexible. What does he need to be flexible about? He's getting rid of the corruption. And this state needs to do something about weeding out those individuals who follow orders from Iran. Do something for your own citizens in Iraq. Iraqis are wondering about the amount of power that the government they chose actually enjoys in light of the presence of the militia clans, corruption faction, and the foreign forces, noting that many will boycott the voting process. Yeah, that's actually a good question. That's the problem with this country. This is the problem why the Iraqi dinar has not changed in the value the way we want it to. That's a big part of it. As much as Al-Kadhimi is doing what he could, if he leaves, who knows who's going to take over? Does that mean it goes right back to the way it was? The corruption? The Iranian influence? Protesters? The country becoming unstable? We don't want that. I don't think the Iraqi people do either. That's why they're speaking out, lashing out against the Iranian-backed militia groups. Iraqis are wondering about the amount of power. Well, I don't blame them, because it would seem to me that the government had enough power, they would be enforcing some changes there a little bit more. Anyways, the magazine cited options of 5 young men interviewed. So let's talk about the 5 young men who interviewed. In a restaurant in Barca, all of whom support the massive opposition demonstration that shook the country back in 2019. 2 of them revealed their scars from the battle. I don't have any plans to vote. You gotta vote, people. Regardless if you think it's rigged or not, you gotta, just in case. Nabil fears that his country is being violated by forces outside the government control. It is. That's one of the hard things that Al-Kadhimi had to deal with. The assassination of the Iranian general Qasem Soleimani, who visited the organizations of Shiite militias in Iraq and was killed by the Trump administration, which in turn still has an army of 2,500 soldiers in Iraq. She also referred to the role of the Popular Mobilization Forces in defeating ISIS, which took control of a third of Iraq territory. The crowd has not been dissolved, and on the contrary, it is funded by the public sector with a share of 2% of the GDP last year, considering the government is thus funding a private army of dubious loyalty that many members of the government forces envy. So in other words, they're more loyal to their leaders and their groups than they are to the government. So this is what I'm talking about. It said the magazine quoted a commander of the 10th Brigade of the Popular Mobilization who has a picture on his wall of Qasem Soleimani. and the Iranian supreme leader, we always obey the prime minister's orders. That's probably why they want to keep al-Kadhimi there. So this is a scary part. For many Iraqis, the magazine considers that the possibility seems terrifying, noting that the... Oh, here we go. Sorry, let me get... Because this is what I was looking for before. So this gentleman here who runs the Center for Martyrs, he removes the medical mask from his face, and it indicates that they follow the prime minister in public issues. Let's talk about the militia groups. But our faith goes beyond the prime minister. And he, as he puts it, and adds that he wants the crowd to be similar to the Revolutionary Guard in Iran. So what happens is Iran has two governments. One is controlled by those elected officials, and there's another group of them who are religious leaders. So it's the religious leaders that most of the time the United States has issues with. So you can see what this guy is saying. They obey the prime minister, al-Kadhimi, but their loyalty goes to the religious leaders, is where he's pointing to. He says the Revolutionary Guards are subject to the supreme religious authority and not to the president. And he runs a vast and corrupt business empire. So the popular mobilization actually runs several ministries. It makes a lot of money from extortion and smuggling, noting that the hatred against Iran and its agents is widespread, as protesters shoot the Iranian consultant last month, and others burned crowd slated last year. So look, they really want Iran out of their country. But it's kind of hard when the people that are armed are those militia groups who are loyal to Iran. This makes it a little hard. See, this makes another case for why we should never give up our guns here in the United States. If these people had their own guns, they'd be able to fight back, but they can't. So you got militia groups running around who are armed. It's kind of hard to fight back against them when you don't have your own weapon to do so. What are you going to do? Slingshot rocks at them? I don't think so. So anyways, this magazine goes on to say, look, there's a lot of outside forces. This is the reason why it'd be really good if al-Kadhimi could be in there. Continue doing what he's doing. She noted that Iraq has suffered great destruction from dictatorship, genocide, and ISIS, and that building a nation capable of ruling Iraq requires a lot of work, adding, however, that there are signs of progress. We know that ever since al-Kadhimi's been in office, some great signs. She explained that there's main reasons for optimism is that although violence has continued, it is not at the extent that it was and occurred at the time since the U.S.-led coalition invaded in 2003, noting that the large car bomb explosions, the last one, car explosion, was in 2017, and she continued, clan conflicts are still common, but she backed off. As for Iraq, it has become an open country, and visas that used to take months are now available upon arrival. Traffic passes through security checkpoints more easily than before, which is a good thing. That's a good thing. She added that the economy is recovering from the corona, and the World Bank expects a decrease of 10% last year. Expects a decrease of 10% last year, but there is an expected growth of 2% this year and growth of 8.4% in 2020, which is good. That's what we want. The budget deficit is expected to shrink from 5.5% of GDP the year 2021. Despite the spread of the corruption, optimism indicates that much of the stolen money is invested locally, not abroad. Good, but you have to be able to account for it. So this is good news, some of it, but I like to see al-Kadhimi stay behind and continue. I like to see him grab control of the army, and that includes the militia. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, the Iraqi dinar is moving in the right direction. As much as things have definitely settled down over in Iraq, there's more missile strikes. Clan clashes have been going on for about 2,000 years. That's not going to change. But for the most part, look, we know elections are coming up. Al-Kademi said he's not going to run. We would like for him to run, but we'll see. Hopefully he'll change his mind. I don't know if that's possible. But for the most part, whoever takes control of Iraq is going to make a world of difference in what goes on with our dinar. Anyways, that's it. Hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. That's it for now. I'm out.